afternoon. Am I speaking with Mr.
Is that Sam, is it?
Hi, yes, this is Samantha from the
Yeah,
ICO. Am I
Samantha.
okay to just take you through those security questions
Yeah,
again,
of course you
please?
can.
Thank you. So could you just confirm the final four numbers and letters of the case reference again, please?
Oh, put me on the spot there. J8F3.
Great, and then also just the first line of your address and postcode again, please. Great, thank you very much for that. Sorry I just missed your call.
No, you're right. You're
So
right.
what can I help you with?
So you responded, you're saying they're not doing anything wrong?
No, that's not what I've said. I've just said that, unfortunately, at present, because we've already issued our advice, this isn't an instance where we would be able to take further enforcement action. So because we've already delivered our assessment and we've delivered our advice in sort of respect of how we would expect Nottinghamshire Police to respond to your specific request and their wider data protection practices, and we can see that they have sort of issued you with what we would deem as a satisfactory response, we wouldn't be able to take further action from that. So we did consider that actually in terms of the response to your initial subject access request, they did reply outside of statutory time frames. However, they've now sort of responded to that accordingly.
But they haven't because they're concerning data still.
Yeah, I understand completely from your perspective, and I can appreciate that you still have concerns that haven't been addressed by Nottinghamshire Police. But from our point of view, they have sort of responded accordingly. They've issued you with a satisfactory response, and so this would be something that you would have to sort of pursue independently now, I'm afraid.
But they've sent me data and not even passed me a password for it. So I don't understand. So what do you want me to? What do I have to do now? Argue with them because they're still concealing data?
So we wouldn't necessarily consider that that is concealing data, and we don't actually have any evidence that they are concealing data because we're an evidence-based data protection regulator. We wouldn't be able to sort of take any further action. So yes, it would be unfortunately the case where you would have to sort of resolve this with Nottinghamshire Police or pursue sort of action through the courts now.
Yeah, right, okay. So what? Cause I'm getting very confused with ICO, right? So you don't uphold the law of the Data Protection Act. You just see if they have acted reasonably within their quest. But if they are concealing data, you would not uphold that.
So we have certain powers. So in the first instance, we are concerned with sort of the wider data protection practices. So our sort of main goal really is to improve the wider data protection practices of organisations. So for example, if we're getting repeated complaints about a particular organisation and they're not sort of corresponding with us and sort of proactively working to improve their practices, then that's kind of an instance where we would more than likely get involved, whereas unfortunately that just doesn't really apply in this case.
But when they're committing crimes, especially an establishment that's meant to be upholding the law, would you not see that as a serious concern?
Well, that's not what I'm actually saying. I'm just saying that as far as we're concerned, we only have sort of limited resources, limited time, limited enforcement powers. We can't actually take further action in all cases, and we have to sort of be selective, I'm afraid. And because we have considered that actually the organisation has sort of responded appropriately now, we've delivered our assessment, we've then delivered our advice in regards to the organisation, we've then delivered a second assessment. So we are satisfied now that they have treated the complaint accordingly, so it would be a case of pursuing this independently.
Yeah, but how can I pursue this legally when you're saying they're acting in accordance to the Data Protection Act, when I don't believe they are?
So you have a right to take this to court under the data protection legislation. So if you did take this to court, for example, obviously you would have to seek legal advice independently from the ICO because that's beyond our remit. But that would sort of be pursued and considered completely sort of separate from the ICO. So they can take our assessments on board, but our decisions aren't legally binding. They're just our assessment of a certain sort of set of evidence and information that's available to us at the time.
Yeah, I understand, but they will do, and they'll say you've said they've acted within the boundaries of the law, and I'm saying, well, no, they're still concealing data and falsifying documentation, but there's nothing more I can do, really, is there?
Well, we wouldn't be able to comment, unfortunately, because it would be beyond our remit now. It is something that you could pursue independently. As I said, if you did take this to court, for example, they would be able to consider our assessment, but they can make their own decision completely separate to ours, so they wouldn't have to sort of follow our assessment of the matter. They would make their own sort of minds up, determined by the evidence and information available.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm understanding ICO really. It's probably better not to report stuff to you because it doesn't really get anywhere then.
Well, that's up to you, really.
I think that is what I'm particularly getting at, you see, because it has been a few occasions where there have been breaches, quite serious breaches as well, and you don't see them as serious as what the member of the publics would do. And that's the
yeah,
problem.
And I can understand that. Obviously, it's had an effect on your life. I can completely appreciate that.
Well, I've had Kafkas bloody send me a 100-page document of 5 children 2 miles down the road from me, and you're telling me it's a crime if I don't delete it, rather than doing anything to them. You see.
I actually didn't tell you that. Sorry, I'm not sure if that's a different case that's worked on by it.
I'm referring to an ICO member, not. I'm referring to ICO in general, right? Do you know what I mean? Not you. You haven't told me that, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, but do you understand? These quite serious cases, and Kafka's telling me they've never had a fine from you, they've never been punished by you, and they just carry on doing it.
I can understand your concern.
You know what I mean? Because we believed that ICO is there to protect the public, and that's it. But it doesn't seem that's the case. It's unfortunate.
Well, I am sorry that you feel that way. Our main goal is to sort of improve the wider data protection practices of organisations. So there's a number of sort of criteria that has to be met before enforcement action can be taken.
Yeah. And I would take the view that if it was a normal normal company, that you give consent to your data, then that's the risk you take of someone concealing it or passing it on to someone else. But government don't ask for your data; they just take it. There's no consent there. And then they conceal it.
So under the General Data Protection legislation, there are actually a number of lawful bases for for an organisation rather, to process data. So consent is actually only one of those. So particularly for organisations such as the police, it would be quite likely that they have other lawful bases that they're depending on in order to process that data. So it's more rare that it would be consent, to be honest.
No, I'm saying that nothing with the government is consent. See, this is the thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to comment on that, unfortunately.
Well, what I'm saying is other organisations have to usually get consent before they take data, you see. Where government, they do not need consent. Then they pass it around, they falsify it, then they get you in an issue where you can't do nothing about it because now they're concealing it. And that's the bottom line to it.
Yeah, I can appreciate your concerns, but that is beyond the remit of the ICO, I'm afraid. Sorry, so if you have those concerns, that would be something that you would have to pursue independently.
So when I want to report, which I have done to you, this crime regards concealing data, you say it's only you guys that can prosecute for that, and not the police, right?
Not from my understanding, no. It's something that you can pursue through the courts. You have a right to take this to court under the General Data Protection Regulations, so it is something that can be done independently. It just depends on sort of the case at hand. So, for example, in this case, it wouldn't be something where we could take enforcement action. So if you did want to, look for sort of a more personalised resolution, that is something you would have to take to court.
But why is ICO telling me in previous emails that it's only you guys that can prosecute for this concealment or falsification of data? This is what ICO have told me. This is why I pursue it this way.
I wouldn't be able to really comment on that, sorry, because I'm not sure who. Do you have a name of somebody that's told you that or anything?
I will have an email saying that.
Yeah.
Because they say it's only us that can prosecute for that act, that section of that act. That's what he or she said to me.
Yeah, well, yeah. I did attach in my previous email, there's a link to a complaints our complaints procedure, which would sort of include filling out a form if you did want to raise a complaint. So if you do want to raise a complaint either about the handling of your complaint in general or about a particular staff member or staff members, that is something that you can do.
Yeah,
so you do have that option as well.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for your time anyway.
No problem. Thank you very much for your call.
Bye-bye.